I appreciate everybody joining us. We're about to talk about the role of the certified pool operator. We're joined by Richard Kraft. He's the Deputy District Environmental Health Director and also a certified pool operator. He's going to kind of go through this, and we're very excited and pleased to have him here. So take it away, Richard.
Good afternoon, everybody. Again, my name is Richard. I go by Rick. That's what everybody knows me as. And I am the Deputy District Director, one of the two Deputy District Directors in the North Central Health District over environmental health. And we oversee all of our permitted facilities, septic programs, and such. I'm also a CPO instructor with the Pool Hot Tub Alliance and have been teaching that for pretty much the last 8 years. And we do it not only for Department of Public Health staff, but all the classes are open to the public as well. And I do see a lot of people that are part of municipalities that have swimming pools or splash pads, and as well as private organizations coming through the class. But what I want to talk to today is the importance of the role of the certified pool operator. There we go, all my stuff works. And why are they so important? One, it is required by law in 25 states, and Georgia is one of those states that if you have a swimming pool that is permitted by DPH, it is required to have a CPO. The other thing that we see a lot of in importance is it provides the first point of risk management. The CPO is the individual that takes care of the pool and all of its surroundings. They're the first point of contact that we with DPH make when we do inspections or talking about the pool. It also helps reduce liability by having someone who is in charge of the pool in several different facets. It helps reduce the conditions that may lead to an accident or some other situation that ends up in a lawsuit. And again, the CPO is very important at reducing that liability. Swimming pools are expensive. There is no doubt about that. Anyone that's ever had one in their backyard definitely knows. Any facility, any city that has a pool knows the cost that it goes into taking care of that pool, that infrastructure. And making sure that the pool is properly taken care of will, one, reduce the chance of failure in any of the components of the pool, ensures great water quality, and ensures that the people that are coming to your facility have the best quality experience possible by taking care of the pool and everything around it. So let's go into some of the specifics of what is the role of the CPO. One, they coordinate. There are regulations, there are insurance requirements, and legal compliance that all need to be met at some point in time. And it is the role of the CPO to be part of that coordinator. I know there are rec department officials that do this, but when it comes to the person that has the closest contact with that pool, with that splash pad, it's going to be the CPO. We also make sure that the pool is safe. Swimming is not something that comes naturally to everybody. And in a way, it's inherently dangerous. It does have its issues, but we also want to have efficient pool operations as well. Again, it's that CPO and their close contact with the pool and the facility that makes that all possible. Also, too, the CPO and their actions help protect the patrons, making sure that's a safe environment at all times, and also protecting those physical assets that I just spoke about as being that they are expensive. And if it's not working, then your facility is not open. That will lead to issues with the community not being able to participate the way they wanted to, and also has other city leaders asking, what's going on. So these are all things that the CPO has an important part in taking care of and managing of the pool. So let's look at each one of these individually, and we'll start with meeting state code requirements. And it is understanding and applying local and state pool code. The state code is one that covers all permitted public facilities, and it is active in all 159 of our counties. And many of our local boards of health have also adopted these rules and made some slight changes, which aren't going to impact municipalities, but it does include apartment complexes, condominiums, and HOAs to make sure that they all follow the same rules. And what goes understand the meaning of the state code is, one, maintaining proper sanitation and pH levels. If we had 2 days that it takes to talk about the whole CPO class when I'm teaching it, we can go in a lot further detail, but the important thing that most CPOs and many organizations look at is the proper sanitation levels and pH levels. If an inspector were to go out and make an inspection and either one of these two items are out, then the pool is closed until they're brought up to whatever the specifications are. And unfortunately, this is not a change that can happen instantly by just adding some chlorine or adding acid to, say, lower a pH level, or sodium bicarbonate to raise it. The pool's going to be closed for a little while. And so we want to make sure that the CPOs understand what those levels are and how to maintain those levels, how to make those adjustments. The other thing that we look at are safety issues. Now, the illustrations are rather obvious. A broken floor drain, the facility is closed until that gets fixed. There's a broken gate or there's a broken fence. Again, those are serious issues that need to be taken care of to make sure that everybody is safe that's using the pool. It just goes a little bit further to make sure that we don't have obstructions within 4 feet of the edge of the pool, and make sure that vacuum lines are where they need to be, that all of our handrails are good and tight. Those are safety requirements that we do address in our rules and that the CPO needs to be very familiar with to make sure that they are being taken care of. The other thing when we're looking at state requirements is detailed daily records. Now, for the state of Georgia, what I'm talking about is sanitation level and pH levels are taken twice a day. And if anybody has dealt with a swimming pool, we know that either one of these chemicals readings can be thrown off very easily by heavy rain, high usage, other environmental issues, such as, do we have water slides splashing into the pool? Do we have other fountains? In the case of the sun can break down chlorine. Now, this is true just for swimming pools and splash pads, and I'm going to touch splash pads specifically at the end of the presentation because they do have some other things concerned. But again, Georgia Codes requires that they are taken and recorded twice a day. Now, here I've got an example of a chemical log record that is on our website and is free to download. We have some others that'll show. You can use your own. We don't require this particular form, but some method to consistently record what that pH level and what that chlorine level is during the course of the day. And again, twice a day is required. When it comes to risk management, hey, I use y'all's logo. It is also the protection of the facility and the assets of pool care. That is what the CPO part of his role is to manage those risks that exist. They are something that are always there. And in many cases, I don't think people understand the importance of the role of the CPO, how important they are, to make sure that they're given the time necessary to go through and look at the facility the way they need to. We want to prevent injuries. Noticing that a handrail is loose, having the ability to go ahead and get it taken care of. The other actual hazards that can exist in a pool. is very important. So those, again, are part of the role of the CPO, going through and checking for risk management issues. The biggest thing is we want to minimize legal liability. Having a CPO is only part of the game. They need to be able to go in and make sure that these things are taken care of in a timely manner, that things are well documented as they go through doing this, because it is well known that the slightest little thing can cause someone to have a negative experience that may result in litigation against your municipality for something that may happen. So it is something that we want to limit as much as possible. And having a CPO is just the start. Having them go out and regularly take care of the facility is very, very important. So the other thing we talk about with the CPO is one of their main roles is taking care of the pool. And we do that through several different ways. The first being maintaining water quality. I know everybody thinks of going out and checking the water for the pool chemicals, the pH, what sanitizer we're using, how much the levels are, but it's also the proper balance of all the chemicals that we find in the water. And making sure that we're doing this can very much impact the lifespan of the pool and the equipment. We can get into situations where the water looks perfectly fine, but it's become corrosive and can actually impact how long the equipment lasts, or even the shell of the pool itself. So this little Langolier saturation index is something that we talk about in the CPO course, and the different methods there are to calculate it. Basically what we're looking for, a pool that is perfectly balanced. And in this saturation index, if we get a number when we do the math that is negative 0.3 or below, we've actually created a pool that is corrosive. This means that the water itself can start attacking the piping, the impeller of the pump, the insides of the valves, even the surface of the pool can be impacted by having a pool that is corrosive. On the other side, if we get above 0.3, then we run into a situation where we're scale forming. And now we're on the other end. We're having calcium deposited inside piping, inside pumps, restricting water flow, creating higher pressures, those types of things that can, again, shorten the lifespan of the pool. So we want to make sure that we're not just looking at pH and sanitizer, that we're looking at all the chemicals that are important to maintaining a good pool, good water quality, to extend the lifespan and getting as much out of that investment as possible that we put into it, and giving the people that are coming to your facilities the quality experience that they're looking for. I know when you go to get into a pool, you're looking at the water, and if it's crystal clear, it's inviting, yep, want to get into it. This is one of those methods that we use to maintain that quality. So we also need to look at taking care of the equipment itself. Now, as an inspector, this is something that when we go out to look at, just like any other time when money gets short, it gets skipped. And this can lead to downtime. This can lead to less pristine conditions of the pool and the facility itself. It can cause things to start looking run down. And that is not something that anybody really wants. So when we're looking at maintenance, we're looking at what is routine, that stuff that we do on a regular scheduled basis. It can be checking to make sure that the water is flowing through the system correctly and the way it's supposed to, looking at the flow meter, making sure that we don't have any leaks. Do we have any system in place for the CPO to go through your facility and just go through and check off the things that need to be done on a routine basis? The other thing we're looking at is quarterly. Just like any piece of machinery, there are maintenance things that are done every day, There are things that are done on a quarterly basis. Think of it as your car. You know, routine maintenance is making sure the tires are filled with air on a routine basis, checking the oil. Quarterly would be more like changing that oil when it's necessary. When do we do the change out the sand filters per se? Is it time? You know, maintenance manuals are great. If you have a piece of equipment, they should have access to that documentation that spells out these time frames of when things need to be done. Annual. There are some things that we only need to do annual, and that may be repainting depth markers. You know, if it's a busy pool and there are a lot of people, things wear out. Does the deck need annual maintenance? Does the fencing need to be done? Do we need to look at those type things? And when it comes to seasonal, Georgia's a little bit different than other states. We can pretty much swim much longer, but we do have that winter time that we do shut everything down. What are the procedures that you do every year as far as shutting the pool down? Now, in some places, they never truly shut down. They just don't allow swimming. So our apartment complexes, some of our motels want to keep the water in the pool, keep it looking fresh, and it's just part of the amenity. You know, there are places that I'm aware of here in Macon where the apartment complexes keep the pool looking good year round, and during the Christmas months, they float different colored candles or other lights for parties to keep things looking great. So what do they do during the off season that allows them to do that? These are all things that are part of the CPO's job. One of the big things that we look at is chemical storage. And this is the perfect room. This is the perfect pool room. Plenty of space for everything to be put out. It's legible. You can see everything. But unfortunately, this is what we normally end up seeing. Yeah, that's a problem. And as I teach in the class, a lot of our pool chemicals don't like each other. They do not react well in close contact with each other. So making sure that the CPO has the ability to adequately store items, to keep a clean environment. And, you know, the example on the bottom left, that right-hand split, you can see we've got stuff piled all in amongst the pool equipment. Makes noticing small leaks a problem and getting into work on things a problem. So we want to make sure that we give our CPOs the ability to get in and do the work the way it's supposed to be done and have the assets available to them to make sure everything can be kept straight. And again, it's not just keeping it straight and orderly for easy inventory. You want to be able to see if a leak starts inside your pool room or something's not working correctly. So one of the things that I don't think a lot of people realize as part of the job of the CPO is the process of preventing injury. We really want to make sure that everybody involved with the pool, whether it be employees or people coming out to enjoy it, are at as little risk as possible of the things that we can control. So when it comes to pool safety, we're looking at the barriers. We want to make sure that our gates and fences are in good condition. Do your CPOs make a perimeter walk every day of the facility to make sure everything's in good shape? You know, it is sometimes very obvious, you know, that a gate's in good shape, but not so much that the barrier on the backside has dirt worn away that maybe somebody can squeeze under a fence to get in. The other things that we want to look at are our emergency phones. Do they work as advertised? And yes, the state law right now requires that they be hardwired. Rules are being looked at. Future, that may change to being able to allow mobile devices, but right now, currently, no. But we want to make sure too that these emergency phones, when dialed 911 or a direct connect, go straight to that county, that city's main dispatch for first responders. They cannot go through any type of like alarm company or other where they then make the 911 call. It must go straight to the local dispatch for first responders. The other thing that we're looking at is life-saving equipment. Now, when we're looking at that, we're looking at the phone, the shepherd's crook, the life rings with rope attached so that you put them up. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a great picture of that. But we want to make sure that's always there. And again, that's part of the CPO's role when they make that perimeter walk and open up or even close down to make sure that everything's still in its place, that it's still in good shape, that if you do have ropes attached to your throw equipment, that it hasn't become rotted out by UV radiation from the sun and just falls apart when touched. So that again is part of that CPO's role. Pool signage, Georgia does require specific rules to be posted. Our wording is very specific and it's all in the rules. But the other thing that you'll notice when I have here is lifeguards. Georgia does not require lifeguards at permitted facilities. You will have a sign, but if you are using lifeguards, we will then check their certification to make sure it is valid, that they are getting the CEUs and training that they need throughout the year. So yes, we don't require lifeguards at our swimming pools, but if you do have them, we require that the certification be kept current and up to date. Then we also look at staff training. Now, as far as rules, we don't really have any, but as a CPO instructor, do your people that are around the pool have CPR training? Are they trained in basic first aid? You know, how to stop the bleed, which are all training that, you know, your local health department can actually assist with, and things of that nature. So those are things that we want to make sure staff are properly trained. If there is an incident, and this, you know, usually the CPOs are somewhere nearby, and is there a procedure written down as to how help is summoned through the 911 call using the pool phone or a cell phone? Is there somebody that is going to meet the first responders as they come in? Do your first responders know where all your facilities are? Oddly enough, I have recently retired from being a volunteer fire chief, and even the small county I'm in, we had some things that we didn't know where they were. Even here in the city of Macon, we've had city government some years past. They built 2 splash pads without our knowledge, and we had no clue they were there until we actually drove by them by accident. Then we got with them, and it was better understood how the procedure. Now, this was a long time ago, but the procedures were better ironed out, how things needed to go about being done. So, but staff training is very, very important. When it comes to legal responsibility, there are several things that we can do to help alleviate our risk, and that is meeting all of the health and safety codes. If your pool, your facility meets what the state of Georgia has set out in this book, then you're well on the way to having a safe and healthy pool and limiting your risk to liability. It's when things go outside of the parameters set forth in this book that things can get hairy. One of the big things, and I know students in my class hear this over and over and over again, is maintain documentation and logs. Again, these are all state of Georgia forms that I pass out to all of our students, and also to, they're on our state swimming pool website. But the first one on the left, you saw a sample of already, is the chemical log. And you'll notice it's a lot bigger than just this section here, which is the twice a day readings for pH and sanitation. All these across here don't necessarily have to be done every day, but they should be taken on a regular basis. Every day is perfect, but that will give you the idea of what the rest of the chemicals are doing in the pool so that you can have that balanced water that we spoke about earlier, that we're not getting a corrosive pool, that we're not getting a pool that will be scale forming, that it's staying right where we want it to be. Let me make that go away. So these are things that need to be done. And by doing these frequently, and let me tell you, the test kits these guys use to do this will do all of this as well. And it's 15 minutes, 20. You get test kits similar to what I use that are faster. But if you take the chemical readings every day and have an incident happen, and the first thing is usually a call goes to the health department. They come out and they look at it and say it happened on a Friday afternoon, and they're not there till the call comes in on Monday. They get there Tuesday. I guarantee you the conditions that existed on Friday no longer exist. And what they'll do is say they're talking about burning eyes or whatever. We'll take the chemical readings as of that point in time. We will write it up. This is what was seen at the time of the incident. At the time of the investigation, we can neither confirm nor deny the conditions at the time of the incident. And if you have no documentation other than maybe sporadically filling this out, then it's going to be, hard not to say you had a problem then. So in keeping with that, say we do have a day we come out, we check the chlorine in the water and it's way too low. What did we do to fix that? Well, one of the things that we see quite often is the only thing anybody ever fills out is this. Yeah, they recorded that the chlorine was way too low. What did you do to fix that? Do you have any documentation in place to show what the corrective actions were? And a corrective action is very important because that shows that, yes, we did our job. We realized that we had a problem, and now we've done something to fix that problem. And this is what we did. And again, this is something that the state came up, which is for the pool operators to record anything that they've done that day. What did they do to fix something? The third one is just a daily self checklist, going through and getting a system of looking at things that in reality do cause issues, do cause points taken off for inspections, but can cause legal issues as well. If you've shown that your staff go through on a regular basis and have done a daily open list, and there's one for close as well, and there's a couple more that I did not include in here, that you have a system in place to find those areas that may be lacking and then recording what you do to fix it, then it is much more difficult for an attorney to say that you were negligent and were not doing what was necessary to keep the standards or follow the rules. So all those together protect against legal action of some type. We make sure that following the rules, keeping documentation, writing down what we did to fix things, all those will come together to help protect you in case somebody brings suit against you. And we see this not only in our pool program, but our other programs as well that we permit and regulate. A lot of things need to be done, but I'm going to be honest when I say, as a whole, in the 13 counties that we look at, the several hundred pools that we have, some of those things are missing. And not just in public pools like yours, but also in our industry pools as well, that we just need to give the CPOs the time and the resources they need to adequately do their jobs. So let me spend a little bit of time on splash pads, because I know this is something that's very popular with our cities and counties, something that many are going to. But they do have some additional risks to them. One, splash pads need all the same requirements as a swimming pool. If you have a splash pad and we're recirculating water through pumps and filters and chlorinators, it is, by our definition, a swimming pool. So it's going to be fenced. It's going to have restrooms. It's going to have a shower, deck shower. It is going to have water fountain. It's going to have all of those components, as well as like a swimming pool. Now, sometimes these are part of swimming pool areas and they're conjoined, and that is great. Makes it really easy. But the splash pads themselves have some extra issues that we need to be aware of. One of these is they do have special concerns that their construction, the type of feature that they are, makes us worry about low water volume. Depending on the size of your splash pad, you can have as little as 1,500 gallons to make many of the features work. One of our larger ones right now has a 3,000 gallon storage tank under the pad, where all this water that you see falling from the features drains down into it. Now goes through the pump, it now goes through the filter, and now goes to the chlorinator and back. When you have a little bit of water, you run into issues with high usage. You have a little bit of water and a lot of kids in it. And so things can change very, very quickly with the quality of water. Suntan lotion, body sweat, we all know the pee in pool is silent, those type things. Well, a 75,000 gallon rec department pool, there's dilution is the solution when you have high volumes of water. We don't have that here. We have a much smaller water volume to deal with, so things can get bad pretty easily. It is very difficult to maintain the proper chemical levels in these type facilities. I know I said that it's required by Georgia law, pool code, to come out and check it twice a day. These really need it more frequently, because we have the added effects of not only a small body of water and high ratio of body contact to water with a lot of kids using it, but the simple fact that small body of water can be heated very easily by the sun to a higher degree than what a regular swimming pool can. And the higher heat content, or the higher heat, can cause the breakdown of the chlorine at a much higher rate than would normally be experienced by a regular pool. We also have, as illustrated by the bucket dumping causing a lot of splashing, the fact that we get aeration effects into the water, and the introduction of large quantities of air also plays havoc with the chemicals, especially those that regulate our pH. You can be introducing, acid rain we've heard about, but just the simple fact there's carbon dioxide in the air, when you mix large quantities of air, such as splashing and sprayers, then you also introduce carbon dioxide into the water, and you end up with carbonic acid, and that itself can cause a decrease in the amount of acid in the water, and causing a low acid reaction. We get below our threshold of 7.2 pH. I've got several splash pads in our district right now that have issues with geese taking up residency when nobody's there. And geese do what they do, and they poop all over the pool deck, which causes issues that they have to be cleaned. So splash pads have some special consideration, and even though they seem simpler, sometimes they take more time and effort to deal with, specifically because of the nature of the attraction the low volume of water and the fact that different things such as solar heating and just contact with large numbers of kids can cause issues with the water itself. So the CPO, his role has many parts, or her role has many parts. It's not as many things, it's just taking the daily water tests for pH and sanitizer levels. It is the fact that they are also planners. In some cases, they are also the leaders. Some are, in fact, one young lady from Valdosta was in my class last week, and she's overseeing 2 pools and has a team under her that she'll be leading. They're the organizers. What is going on, what maintenance is going on. Sometimes they're actually pulling together staff. Sometimes they're a committee of one. It's just one person doing all this, but they still have to be organized. And they're also the controllers. They need to have control over those facilities to make good decisions as to what's going on, throughout the operation of the season of that particular pool. And some of our pools, they're year round. This does not stop. We have aquatic centers that are always open, that are run by cities, as well as City of Warner Robins is one. In conjunction with their education, they have a large aquatic center that just opened a year or 2 ago. So that one is 24, or not 24, but year round. So always busy. I know I've said a lot over the last almost 40 minutes. Are there any questions?
So I have a question here. Where can we find these logs? The logs we used are not so layered.
Mr. Dan, I can send you, and I should have put that web link on here. But I can definitely send you the link to the website for Georgia Department of Environmental Health, or you can Google Georgia Department Environmental Health pools, and it will take you to our website. And in that website is a list of documents that are very useful in the pool, and that's where I pulled those from.
So if you can, just send me the link or that, and then I will distribute that, because I send out the recording to everybody. So
yeah, definitely I'll do that.
Any other questions? Here's another one. We winterize our pump systems until the following season. Is there any tips for startups after winterized systems sat off all winter?
Well, the biggest thing that I would do is making sure that if you're using any antifreeze or anything of that nature, which there are products for that is thoroughly flushed out of the system before opening up. But basically, when you get cranked up at the end of the year, just ensuring that everything is working as it should, and that you take, your time, open up early enough to make sure your water chemical levels are correct. And that could basically be anywhere from 1 to 2 weeks before you call the health department for permitting or the opening permit, but making sure that you're looking at it and not just, okay, it was good, on Monday, we'll open up on Friday, and something's happened in between. So making sure that once you get it opened up, that twice a day is taken to make sure you get a trend of how your water's doing, and you go all the way around and make sure that your perimeter is good, your fencing, your gates, anything that's broken has been replaced or repaired, that type of thing, and just having a good program to do that, a checklist to go through and make sure that's taken care of.
Here's another question. How long does it take a CPO to become certified? Is this just one class or a series of classes? Also, do they need to recertify later every 2 to 3 years?
So the course itself is a 2-day course that I teach. There is an online version that they can go to the Pool Hot Tub Alliance to look at, where you can do some of the classwork online and then take a one-day course. Because it's not my full-time job, I work in several different things here with public health. I do the 2-day version only. It is a full 2 days, and the certification lasts for 5 years. And then they have to retake the class for certification after that.
So to take the full 2 days?
There is a 1-day certification that, again, is on the PHTA website. But I, again, only do the 2-day version. But for
Here's
a lot
of
there, sir?
I'll say it after you make that statement.
Okay. But I will say that taking the full 2-day reminds people of things they've forgotten, and brings them back up to speed, because like everybody else, and I'm just as guilty, you get into a habit of doing things on a routine basis, and we forget things. So that 2-day reminder is very beneficial. And I've actually had folks that, oh, I forgot about doing that. Yeah, that's great. And so I do recommend the 2-day version.
So here's another comment / question. I would like to sign up for the next class to get certified. Can I have the link to sign up? So when you're sending me the log, if you can send me the link for the sign up or where they go for that.
Yeah, I will definitely do that. And also too, if anybody has a large number of people that need certification stuff, I have in the past, like I've gone to the city of Newnan and did their rec department. So they don't necessarily come to me. If there's enough people, I can go to them.
Okay.
And there are other instructors in the state as well. So it's not just me.
Any other questions? Well, Richard, thank you so very, very much. We really appreciate it based on the questions. I think your presentation was extremely valuable. As I said before, this will be recorded, and we will be sending out a link to the recording along with the link for the log and how to register for the course. So if you know of anybody that's interested in listening to this or watching it, which I think there probably are, let me know. And again, I will send that to them also. But thank you again. I really time and the information you provided, and thank you for all that's attended.
Thank you.
You guys have a great rest of the day.
You too.